Turn it on.
Good morning, America, and thank you for tuning in with us here at News at 5. I'm your anchor, Peyton Grigsby.
And I'm your co-anchor, Autumn McDonald. Tonight's story, prisons around the North. Many prisons have been popping up around the North ever since the outbreak of the Civil War has hit us.
There's a total of 5 prisons here in the North, starting with Camp Douglas and Rock Island in Illinois, Elmira in New York, Johnson's Island in Ohio, and Camp Morton here in Indiana.
Tonight we are focusing on the history of Camp Morton. It was named after Governor Oliver P. Morton.
More on the story as we go to Haley Beth, who is on the scene.
Thank you, Payne. I'm here just on the outskirts of Camp Morton. The camp started in early 1861 where it wasn't a prison at all, but a recruitment and training depot for any Indiana volunteers.
That's astonishing, Haley. When did it become a prison?
Good question, Autumn. You see, Camp Morton turned into a prison in August of 1861. It was made to only hold 2,000 prisoners, but by April it held over 4,200 prisoners. Although it held a lot of prisoners, it was mainly known for its Victorian trims architecture. The camp had a gingerbread trim that gave it a somewhat peaceful feel, as you can tell. The top of having a cheerful look, it had 5 acres of confinement area. This area held many maple trees for shade. The camp's water supply was provided by five wells on the property. There was a deep runoff creek that ran through the middle of the camp, but sadly, by the end of the year, 1863, the creek became a dumping site of the camp trash and debris. Back to you, Autumn.
Thank you, Haley.
Camp Morton later went back to being a true facility because of the prisoner exchange in August of 1862. It was then turned back into a prison in the early 1863s and was placed under Army administration. It was commanded by William Hoffman, Union Commissary General of Prisoners.
The main purpose of the camp was to house sick or wounded prisoners. However, prison populations keep increasing, making every classification of prisoner to be sent to Camp Morton for confinement. In December of 1863, the number of prisoners had increased to over 3,300.
Let us go back to Haley to hear about the confinement and the treatment of these prisoners.
I'm currently standing in one of the few buildings that were in the prison war camp. Each building held to 4 to 5 prisoners, each having their own compartment. Even though they did, their living conditions were horrible. 45,000 to 50,000 died due to unsanitary living conditions, such from infections, smallpox, and even prison winds. Little to no nutrition was also a very big factor in this, as well as no doctors. Out of desperation, most would either kill themselves or each other to escape prison life. Back to you, Peyton.
Thank you, Haley. With the end of the war coming about, it saved thousands of war prisoners. The Union's war camps held 220,000 prisoners. In those camps, 26,000 of those prisoners died. Then the soldiers of the Union Army, 194,732 were captured and put into 7 war prisons. 30,000 of the Union soldiers died inside the camps.
Thank you for watching News at 5. Come back tomorrow when we discuss how Lincoln plans to get rid of slavery.
Right, so Union state prisons were created in 1861 with the start of the war. They were created to hold Confederate soldiers and other spies and such that were on that side of the war. And all prisons were converted back into normal prisons or disbanded after the war.
Here's some facts. The men of which were captured had the possibility of being released if they promised not to return to battle. During the war, the two sides would frequently arrange to exchange prisoners. They would expect money depending on the soldier. The North had much more food supplies, medical care, and resources than the South. However, The conditions of the prisons in the North were not much better than the worst of the South prisons. Camp Douglas, Chicago, and Elmira in New York were really bad to their prisoners. It is said that they wanted to treat the Confederate soldiers how supposedly the Confederate were treating the Union soldiers. However, Camp Rathbun at Elmira, New York, was the worst camp in the North. Nearly 3,000 rebels died of the diseases and the cold. The disease was known as the Helmira. The mortality rate of this camp was 25%.
Wait, what was that camp called again?
That was Camp Rathbun.
Okay, and then for Persia, we had an economic because it is shown with the money that is needed to transfer the prisoners back and forth. Because once they had enough prisoners in one prison, they would arrange with the southern prisons and do like an exchange with prisoners. And then we had political, because it all started with different political opinions, and that's why the prisons had to be made, was to hold their prisoners from this war. And then artistic was because of how they were made. They were very different from prisons nowadays. And then significance back then, they were significant because they needed a place to put all of the people that they captured. And during the Civil War, many people were captured and taken to the other side of the country. So they needed places to hold them. And then now it's not as important because most of them have just gone back to either regular prisons that aren't used as much, or they're just completely gone with now and broken down. But they're very